When I first bought my 2014 Honda Accord EXL V6, I knew for sure that it would be a car that I'd own for many, many years to come. It was the first major car purchase that I'd ever made, aside from owning 2 used cars previously, and it was the newest car that I'd ever owned. I had a 1998 Accord, then a 2004 Accord, obviously which have both been featured on this channel. And there were very few cars that could ever replace that 2014 Accord. However, this was one of them. Before I bought my 2014 Accord, I test drove both a 9th generation Civic Si and a 10th generation Civic Si as well. And I really liked both of them. But unfortunately, both of those sold before I was able to make a purchase, which led me to my Accord, obviously. And I was pretty solid with my decision. I really did like the Accord for what it was. However, I ended up coming across this 2014 Civic Si, and as of right now, it's officially mine. Starting off at the front, chrome Honda badge, red Si emblem. Fog lights were standard on the Si, and then some pretty distinguishable treatment to the grille and bumper in comparison to the non-Si or base 9th generation Civic Coupe. Moving around to the side, 18-inch alloys, front and rear disc brakes obviously. Manual folding side mirrors, and then it does have the lane watch camera on the other side, just like my 2014 Accord did as well. Sunroof riser from the 7th generation Accord has again followed me. That's been on each and every single one of my cars at this point, and obviously here it is again. Factory IV Tech Ruler red cam sticker. And a relatively high profile wing spoiler on the back. I really like that, especially in comparison to the pre-refresh for the 9th Gen Si. The pre-refresh had more of like a duckbill or deckless spoiler. Chrome Civic badge with a red Si emblem. Somewhat of a little diffuser down at the bottom, and then has the chrome tip single exhaust back there as well. And obviously everything on the passenger side is going to mirror that at the driver's side. Again, aside from the lane watch camera, excuse me, that's the only thing that is asymmetrical. And overall, I am very pleased with the way this car looks. I did consider going to look at a sedan that I found as well, but I think the coupe really distinguishes itself a lot better than the sedan counterpart did. I'll very briefly go over the interior. Door panel, we have power windows, locks, mirrors, obviously. One distinction between this and my Accord, obviously because it's a sedan, or because that was a sedan, it had 2 more window controls, and this one only has automatic up and down for the driver's window, whereas that had auto up and down for both driver and passenger. This was a cheaper car, so that's not really much of a surprise though. SI branded floor mats, SI branded seats as well. Both the front and rear seats are red, something that the newest Si and even Type R failed to do. SI specific steering wheel with audio controls and cruise control as well. Obviously shifter for the 6-speed manual, which has been absolutely amazing. And if you look around the air vents and around the center stack, you see that there's a full carbon fiber material surrounding, again, the air vents, and then that touchscreen display as well. And I'll go over the interior in more detail when we get to the driving portion. For right now, let's just a little look at what it is. So when I was first purchasing my 2014 Honda Accord, as I mentioned earlier, I knew with 100% certainty that that would be my long-term vehicle, at least until I finished paying it off, and most likely even after then. Because quite frankly, I really was in love with that car. Obviously, I've owned 2 Accords before that, my 04 and my pride and joy, or former pride and joy, I guess I should say, my 98 Accord as well. So owning an Accord just seems to be like a staple in my life. And it was an excellent car. Obviously, I posted a few videos of that car on my channel. And I wish I would have captured more, because it really was a perfect daily driver. It was really spacious for what it was. It had pretty good fuel economy. Obviously, being the V6, didn't have nearly as good a fuel economy as the 4-cylinder, but that's to be expected. And I also knew what I was going into when I bought the V6. The powertrain was essentially perfect. I did make a little complaint about the 6-speed automatic in my last video, excuse me. But for what it was perfectly fine. As I mentioned earlier, before I bought that Accord, I did test drive 2 SIs. I test drove I want to say the one that I test drove was a 2015 Civic Si. It was great, had higher mileage, and it was okay. It wasn't perfect, but I honestly did like the way that it drove. And after that, I ended up test driving a 2017 Civic Si sedan, and I really loved that one as well. And that's actually what I wanted to get when I was planning on going back to get it. Unfortunately, it had already sold, which led me to buy my 2014 Accord. And I was pretty satisfied with that. And I knew for sure that if I was ever to replace that, it would be something that checked the box of being sporty, efficient, all of those things. And here I am with this. I remember being about 14 years old, 13 or 14, give or take, when the refresh for the 9th-gen Civic Si came out. And Matt Marin Motoring, at the time his channel was called Subaru WRX Fan, and he did a review on literally one that was identical to my car. It was the Fatal White, it was a 2-door coupe, and that's when I truly fell in love with these cars, and I made it a goal of mine that one day I'd own one. And it was still a goal in the back of my mind, but since I had that Accord, I figured that would be something that came years and years and years in the future. But one day, I was scrolling through Auto Trader, and I happened to come across this one, and I realized that it had only 38,000 miles. It was about 2 miles away from my house, and I decided, well, if nothing else, I can at least go take a look at it and test drive it. And after the test drive, kind of solidified my decision. I fell in love with it even more, which ultimately led me to sign the paperwork, and obviously it's mine now. And so far, I can honestly say that I truly have enjoyed it. Compared to a Honda Accord EXL V6, which is bordering that line of luxury, or premium, I guess I should say. It's night and day, but that had its purpose, and this has its purpose as well. And again, so far I can truly say that I'm in love with it. I think one trait that really stands out the most to me is just how eager the car is to go. My Accord had 278 horsepower from a 3.5 liter V6, which was, pretty acceptable. But when you really got in that car, it seemed like it was almost a punishment, because at the end of the day, it wasn't really meant to be a sports car necessarily. It did have the upper level engine, which was amazing. It did have nearly 300 horsepower, which was amazing as well. But at the end of the day, that's more of a cruiser. Whereas this car, when you get in, it seems like it's actually a reward, because the car wants you to do that. And I tend to take it pretty easy on my cars, so it is somewhat of a learning experience, getting used to this, and being in a vehicle that actually rewards me for getting on it, and rewards me for reaching into that upper RPM range. In about a week or so of owning this car, I've only done one actual intentional VTEC acceleration, and I can honestly say I concur with many of the just critical reviews and stuff that say the VTEC engagement in this car isn't as noticeable as in the generation that came before it, which Again, I can honestly concur with that, and I do agree, but it's not to say that it's not noticeable at all. And it does have the little IV Tech monitor up there, and sources say that that was included because Honda themselves knew that their crossover wasn't as noticeable. Whether that's completely true or not, take it with a grain of salt, just as I did. And in terms of powertrain, it does have a K24 2.4 liter dual overhead cam 4-cylinder with IV Tech, making about 205 horsepower. I believe that was updated for 2014 actually. It's a little bit different from the 2.4 that you would find in a 9th generation Accord, and even an Accord of the previous generation. I believe this is more in line with the K24 from the Acura TSX and the Acura ILX of that time. And while at this stoplight, I'll kind of go over a few of the creature comforts that my Accord had that this doesn't have, that I honestly do miss. For one, memory seats. Very rarely would I let anyone else drive my car, but in the case that someone did have to or asked to, it was nice to be able to have them, set their seat up in their own position, but be able to press one single button to have it go back to mine. Clearly, this is a much cheaper car, or at the time it was a much cheaper car, so no memory seats. Only the driver's side window is auto up and down. I think that since this only is a two-door, it would have made sense to make both of these auto up and down, but hey, what do I know? Also, the lane departure warning and forward collision warning. As much as I griped about those when I had my Accord, now that I don't have the two features, I kind of miss them, if I'm being honest. Lane departure warning was truly annoying, but there are times when it did come in handy because I veered out of my lane a little bit without realizing, or got a little bit too close to the white line in the middle. In terms of the forward collision warning, that honestly helped out a lot. Let's say, for instance, you just happen to not be paying as much attention as you should be. Having that little feature to alert you to come to a stop really was helpful. Whereas this car is more on the bare bones end, and I believe this car, when brand new, was just above $22,000 or so. So it not having those features honestly isn't that big of a deal. Whereas now, I believe the Civic Si does have those things, but it's also nearly $30,000, and I imagine and actually know that it's more than that by the time the dealers add their markups and stuff like that. Which leads me to a good point as well about the price of this car. It only has 38,000 miles. It's in really good condition, and that does come at a price. This car, when it was brand new again, was about $22,000, just a little bit above $22,000. And here we are in 2022, 8 years later, and I paid just that, $22,000. And had the car had, let's say, 150,000 miles, then no, not at all. I wouldn't have done that. Had the car been in questionable condition, I wouldn't have done that either. But considering both the condition of the car and, quite frankly, just how much I wanted one, I went ahead and went for it. And while I clearly kind of went back on my word about that Accord being my long-term vehicle, I really do think I mean that about this one, because it checks all of the boxes for me. Just to give a little bit of information about myself, I'm 22, single, no children. I have a general love for cars, specifically Hondas and Acuras. So having a four-door sedan was nice, but it really wasn't necessary for me. And I think with me liking cars and wanting something that was a little bit more sporty, this really is perfect for me. It's still very fuel efficient. I think my average fuel economy right now is like 31.5, which is amazing. It does run on premium, but I used to put premium in my Accord anyways, so really not that big of a difference. I just think this fits my overall profile or my life a little bit better. And I also think it works out well because, let's say, by the time I finish paying this car off, because it is financed, by the time I finish paying it off, in however many years, my goal is to pay it off much earlier than required. But let's say I decide I need something with a little bit more room, this will be paid off by that point, and I can go ahead and move up to something like an SUV or a larger car, but still have this to kind of enjoy as I can. As I kind of get to the closing part of the video, I'll end off by saying it does feel kind of nice to finally have a car that I don't feel like I need to enhance to make it appear better. With my first car, my 1998 Honda Accord, there were quite a few visual or aesthetic modifications made to make it to my liking, obviously, and it still wasn't like priced out or extremely modified or anything, but it made it look better in my opinion, and in general, I think. With my 2004 Accord, again, as I mentioned a few times before, I really hated the way that car looked, so it needed all the help it could get, so I did a few changes to that. And then with my 2014 Accord, the car was beautiful as is, but I still wanted it to look a little bit more sporty, so I did a few things here and there. And I can finally say that with this car, there is no inclination in me, or honestly no motivation in me, or desire to add anything to it. I think it looks really good just as is. The front two windows do need to be tinted a little bit darker to fit my liking. I think that might be the only thing that I'll do to this one. And aside from that, I think I'm good. I truly do think I'm going to stay away from exhaust modifications. I had a muffler delete on my 2014 Accord and ended up despising it, so I think I'm going to play it safe. This car sounds pretty good as is. The exhaust is not loud by any means necessary, but it does have some pretty good induction noise. So I think I'm going to leave all of that stuff alone and just enjoy the car for what it is. As always, I appreciate anyone for watching. Always leave some feedback if you have any, whether that's positive, negative, or just feedback in general. It truly does mean a lot, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you.